where I think Tumblr is especially useful as a storytelling platform is it's kind of closer to like storytelling that you do in a room like this, as opposed to storytelling in a more formal setting. It's storytelling that's interactive storytelling. It's, you know, Obama's campaign is telling that story about themselves, but they're also adapting their story to what other people are saying about them and with them, and it's a talking conversational storytelling as opposed to a broadcast storytelling where you make a discrete thing and you put it out. And so it's a much more kind of real-time responsive storytelling. I
think that's a great observation, and I think that kind of ability to interact and respond and be playful as well, you know, that keeps your audience engaged and attentive.
Right. I noticed that, you know, when I did this for Newsweek years ago, the two responses were, A, I thought Newsweek was out of business, and which, you know, eventually, and B, and this was the better response or the nicer response, was like, oh my God, they actually like reblogged my thing, or Newsweek followed me, and they would like screenshot that notification, and that, you know, again, the story that people started, you know, hearing from Newsweek, which is that we are actually going to pay attention to you and be in your space and engage with you and not just kind of relentlessly pump our message to you. People really appreciate it, and people said, oh wow, they're responsive, they know, they care, and I think that makes a huge difference in perceptions of your organization.
Yeah, I think it's still very, very powerful. As an agency, of course, we're always asked to kind of demonstrate return on investment, and you talked about you know, the kind of way that content is shared as being one metric, but how do these organizations show success, or how do you recommend we should look at that?
I mean, some of it is obviously dependent on your various goals and things like that. Some organizations, you know, measure success by, you know, simple and naked, does this generate traffic back to my site? And so, like, you know, if that's what they're after, then they use Tumblr in a slightly different way. Like Life is an example, where, you know, they have a huge archive of photos. They want you to come back to their site and ultimately think one of them is cool and buy a print. And they actually are very good at using Tumblr as a referrer for people. So because basically what they do is just keep putting cool pictures out on Tumblr with like reasons to come back to say here's more, and like, you know, they get a lot of people who do, and those turn in sales. So their metric is really, are we getting more people to come back to life.com? Something else, and you know, a harder metric sometimes is where things like a lot of like public media does, like public radio, PBS, where really what they want you to do is like them and, you know, and tune into their show. And so for their metric is more like, are we getting a lot of engagement? Are we getting a lot of people talking about us? Are we getting a lot of people like reblogging our stuff? And, you know, because they don't have the same kind of commercial traffic imperatives and things like that. Others, you know, like again, if you're an organization like say Planned Parenthood, and then your metric is really more, are you serving people? You know, are you getting a lot of people who are asking you questions? So it's more about, are you, you know, generating user interest? Are you getting people, you know, kind of, are you giving them the service that, you know, that they could use? And then I think the last one is really, there's a commerce metric. You know, so you know, we haven't really talked about this, but a lot of kind of small stores especially use Tumblr as an actual commerce platform. Of a Kind is one, for instance, where they actually just sell things through Tumblr. And so the metric is, are we converting these into sales and things like that. So, you know, I think there are a few different ways to do it. But to me, again, my primary metric is always kind of, you know, reblogs, conversation, you know, like conversation around what you're doing.
Yeah, and showing that the content is actually having an impact, having a response.
Right, like, you know, yes, exactly. So like, you know, it doesn't matter to me, or wouldn't matter so much to me, if I have like 500,000 followers on Tumblr, if all they're really doing is passively viewing it on their screen. I want, you know, I'd rather have, you know, 10,000 followers who are actively reblogging their stuff and talking about my stuff, because that shows a better level of like, you know, engagement with the people that you're trying to reach. So.